on the statewide front, economy, pandemic, and empty downtowns. If you go around downtown Lansing, let's say today, if you want to take and drive your car and get out, walk around, you will not see at lunchtime a lot of people going to the restaurants or to the hot dog guy, Clint, who's out there at the corner of Michigan and Capitol. Why? Because there are so many people still working from home, and they're doing things remotely. What is this going to look like coming out of the pandemic? We will get out at some point. But before we get out, should we be reopening our offices around the state and maybe taking the lid off just a little bit from where it's been? We're going to talk about it this morning with Wendy Block, who is Vice President for Business Advocacy and Member Engagement with the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. They're leading an effort here called Reopen Michigan Safely. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Tell me when, the hashtag is, Reopen Michigan Safely. What is that, when you talk about the word safely, is that safely, to an extent? Is there an asterisk on that? Safe as you can be? What does that look like to the chamber?
Yeah, so the Michigan Chamber, along with a network of state and local chambers and trade and business associations across our state, last week launched a coalition called Reopen Michigan Safely. And the goal here is to really put some pressure on the governor to start reopening Michigan's economy, or further reopening Michigan's economy, because, of course, we've seen some of the restrictions lifted in recent days and weeks. And really what we're asking here is for the governor to do a number of things, one of which is to end the office ban. So right now, Michigan has a blanket prohibition, pretty much, against in-person work. And what we're asking for is for that prohibition to be lifted and to allow employers to begin returning employees to the workplace. There's a number of reasons why we'd like to see that, and we can certainly get into that. But, to your question about what we mean by safety, employers have been asked, going back to late summer and fall, to put together preparedness and response plans, to get ready to do those daily health screenings, to make sure that people can be socially distanced in the office, and to buy the mask, to get the PPE. All of those things in office settings have just been sitting dormant since that time because of this blanket prohibition. So we feel it's time for employers to begin working with their employees and a union, if there is one, to talk about re-engaging our office settings and to start bringing people back. But to do it
well,
safely,
Wendy, one thing I was getting, though, from the administration here, better part of a year ago now, was that, the compliance, the things that you said, having all this stuff out, taking the high road, not the low road, that the compliance with that was not uniform. It was spotty. And so they thought to err on the safe side, they would go that way and did so. Is that not an effective argument back at you? The saying that if you've got member people who still aren't cookie cutter, can it be done safely? What convinces you that it can be done safely?
Yeah. Because we talk to people every day who say they have all of the protocols in place and they're ready to go, but government won't let them. And so all we're saying is, look, a one-size-fits-all approach here may not be appropriate moving forward. We're getting to a situation where apparently every Michigander who wants to have a vaccine by the end of May should be able to get one. So, we're getting to this herd immunity, right, that everybody's talking about. That's kind of the goal. Sure. And, the governor and her team is talking about extending out this prohibition on in-person work until maybe October. They said that as recently as last week, and that just doesn't make sense to us. If people are going to be vaccinated and they're going to have this herd immunity, shouldn't we be talking about then further re-engaging the economy? Now, the governor has kind of changed her tune on this in the last week, and we think that these efforts are working because she's saying, well, now maybe they might re-engage office workers as early as next month, and that's a great step. Our members are looking for certainty on this question. They want to get prepared, and they want to know what this is going to look like for them moving forward. And really, that's all we're asking is for a conversation.
Do you think the state has used science and data on this, or just erred on the side of abundant caution, or a combination thereof?
Well, that's an interesting question because the goalpost keeps kind of moving on these things, if we're being honest, and we haven't really seen the science and data to back up these decisions. Quite frankly, we know that office settings are some of the most low-risk settings out there, so it doesn't really make full sense to us why offices remain closed, but yet you can do everything else.
I was going to say they're low risk. They're low risk and no risk now because they're not open. But when they open, I think they'll be, and they will. The question is here, and this is something I know you've thought about with your membership, is even if they reopen, I mean, you can say, yep, everything's closed, and then boom, everything's open. But look at restaurants; they're not exactly packed every night, even with a lower amount of folks that can go, because people will decide for themselves. Companies may still allow workers the ability to work remotely, and it's going to change. It already has the mindset of business, has it not, to a certain extent?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you know what? We just want these decisions to be made in the workplace between employers and employees and unions. You know, there are a lot of our members that are saying we're not going back until September. We are not going back until January. And that's perfectly appropriate. They've made those decisions. They're probably going to stick with them. There are others where they have employees who are saying, we want to come back, and the employer's having to say, oh, you can't, because we're not going to thumb our nose at these rules. And, you know, just this idea that where in situations where employees would like to come back, that the employer has to say, sorry, no, that just doesn't make any sense to us.
I like that sound effect. So we're going to have to use that on future shows here. You know, the sound effect. I see the list. I see your growing list of people in the alliance here, and it looks to be about 20, 25. A lot of other chambers. I don't see the Detroit chamber. What's going on there?
We're having conversations. They've, in fact, signed a letter on this issue that we worked on prior to this coalition on this issue. You know, different decisions have different boards that, kind of come to different conclusions on this. But they have voiced support for reopening offices and further reengaging the economy. So I can't put any words in their mouth other than
I understand. I understand. So where's your next step here? Do you take all these names, put them in front of the governor, and say, look, all these people are asking you to take another look at this, so please do. You work with your lobbyist, because you're right downtown. You're only a couple blocks from the Capitol yourselves. Do you go and work that lobbying effort with state lawmakers, because the majority party is probably on your side here? How does this turn out? Tell me what victory looks like here short term.
Sure. Yeah, so I think we're making good progress here. I mean, our goal is to amplify the voice. A lot of these associations have spoken out on their own individually, and we think there is power in a greater voice. So we're asking businesses and individuals to visit our website, which is reopenmichigansafely.com. From there, they can sign a petition. They can get the phone number for the governor's office or an email, and they can make their voice heard on this issue. So, our goal here is focus on the governor, because this emergency rule was put in place by the governor. She is the only one who has the ability to withdraw it, and she's the only one who has the ability to extend it. The legislature, because they're relying on some emergency powers, the legislature doesn't have a role here. So we are not unfairly targeting the governor. This is a governor decision at this time. So really the goal is to make our voice heard and to hope that kind of moves the needle.
Wendy Block is with the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. They have fronted this plan here to reopen Michigan safely. And, again, you can check the website for that. They're on social media, Twitter and Facebook as well. And there's a bunch of other chambers and some other large state associations who have signed on board for this. They'd like to see offices open back up, at least to the extent that their membership would want to open the office and not have that rule come from on high. Wendy, I appreciate you coming on today very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one.
We're back here shortly on the Morning Wake Up, 1320 WILS.